Right in front of you, there are two very beautiful cases which is released today, and thanks to Montech to provided both of this case for me to share with you guys. These are none other than the HS01 and the HS02. Now, both HS01 and HS02 come in two different colors, which is in black or in white. Take for example on the HS01, if you want it in white, you can do that too. Same goes to the HS02 if you want it in black. Now, what's the difference between the HS01 and the HS02? Basically, it's just the front panel. For HS01, you have a mesh front. Else, for HS02, it's a tempered glass. And both this case at the side is tempered glass. Now, there are also two types of HS01 and HS02, which is known as the HS either 01 or 02 Pro versus the non-Pro. What's the difference? If you choose a Pro version, as in like, take for example, HS02 Pro, it comes with 5 pre-installed fans, and these are the new fans which is known as the GF120 V2, and all these are ARGB. So depending on what you choose, if you choose color white, your fans will be in white. If you choose in black, it will be in black. And for the Pro version, it does come with a integrated, or should I say a internal fan ARGB hub. As for the measurements, right, both measure the same. The depth will be 480, the height will be 480, and the width will be 240. Now for today's illustration, I'll be making use of the white to show you what's the interior and such, inclusive of how it looks like at the front when I remove the panel. To remove all the panels, be it the HS01 or the HS02, is pretty straightforward. First thing you need to do, remove off the top, and there's a leather over here, just pull it up, and this is being magnetic to the top, and this is how it looks like. Very nice ventilated holes, and the leather itself having a subtle logo, Montech. Now as for the side panel, there is a gap over here. Just feel your finger here and to pull it towards you. Now, though this is catched to the bottom section, right, the glass will not fall, but I would suggest you to hold on it, okay, on both sides, then just leave it up. And to put this back, there are two catch over here. Just need to house it back to the latch over here. So it's pretty straightforward, it's toolless. See? Now as for the front, same thing. There is a latch over here, or should I say a hole over here. Just place your index finger, pull it out towards you. Again, this is being held by the two latch at the bottom, but try not to do it this way, right? Make sure you support it, leave it up, and you will be off. And same thing, to house it back, there are two latch over here. Just hook to these two notches. It's pretty straightforward. Okay. And as for the other side, where you have a whole panel metal, there are ventilated areas over here for more air to go in. Same thing. There is a hole over here. Just tuck your thumb or index finger, pull towards you. See? And it will expose the cable management area. Now do take note, the HS01 and the HS02 in fact is a dual chamber case. It's considered as full tower, so take note on that. And this is how it looks like at the rear, where you have this 220mm fans housing. In fact, this tray can be removed. I'll show you how. And this is the cutout for the rear I/O on your motherboard, and a total of 7 expansion slots. And one thing very special about this 7 expansion slot, either you can make it, you know, this way, or you can flip it so that you can house your coffee cut vertically, which I'll show you later. Now right at the bottom, there is a mesh filter to filter all the dust. This is where your bottom fan is being housed. So you just filter off all the dust. So you can just remove this, wash this, and place it back. It's pretty straightforward. And just to show you the top, see, this is how it looks like. As mentioned, dual chamber. So this side is where you place either your fans or your radiator, which I will talk about it later. And over at this side, right, is for you to do your cable management and such. Now for HS01, where it has a mesh front, to remove is of the same. There is a hole over here, just place your index finger and to pull it towards you. And this will be off. A very nice ventilated front mesh. Now there are no filters at all. And you'll be exposed with this tray over here, whereby this is meant for you to mount your fans. This case is very spacious to work with. As you can see, open area over here. Now, for motherboard placement, take note, do not place any eATX. It is only catered for ATX all the way to ITX, but not eATX. Reason being, right, Montech have designed in a way whereby you can see there's a leverage over here. So when you mount the motherboard in, right, it's going to be sunken in. And unlike the way how they design the cutout, for the side where you pass through the 24-pin cables, or for your Type-C front I/O cables and such, it's a very short distance to a ATX motherboard. So all the cables, right, will be tucked nicely and to be hidden by this strap. Same goes to the top where you plug the 8-pin UPS cable. There are two holes over here, so you can just pass through this and to cover up all the cable mess at the top. Nicely done. Not only this, they have also catered this case for BTF motherboard. Be whether you're choosing a MATX or a ATX. See the cutout? This is meant for the MATX. As for the larger cutout, it's meant for the ATX BTF. Now, besides this, right, another brilliant thing where they have this skirt over here. This you can remove. Right at the bottom, this is where you plug your audio cables, your USB cables and such to the motherboard. Once you've done this, right, instead of fiddling with the mess, right, you have this whole skirt to cover it. And what's holding this skirt, in fact, is by two screws. Kindly do not lose them, and you will need to fasten this, right. Oh, another thing is that the skirt, attention to details, they have thought about this. This is rounded so that you don't get scratched. Well done. Now, as mentioned, to hold this whole skirt, right, in place, there are two screw holes which you will need to make use of the screws to mount at the back, which is here and here. So as mentioned, right, the two screws. Brilliant idea. Now the next thing is that for the fans, right, it's also sunken in at the bottom, as you can see. Nicely done. Now these are 25mm thick. If you were to choose to change the fans and to plug in probably a Fantex T30 or such, right, which is 30mm, right, not a problem. It's not going to obstruct your motherboard in any ways because it's sunken in. So a good thought. And another thing, attention to details too. Even when they sunken in the fans, right. Okay, let me just take out some of them to explain. Now, as you can see that at the bottom, okay, there are also cutouts for you to route your fan cables through it, and all the cable mess, right, will be hidden underneath. Nice thought. Well done. Same goes to the top where you have these two cutout. imagine that you place your fans over here, right? You can route your cables through here. And not only this, even for radiators, right? You can just route your radiator fans cables through here. And do take note, this is at 80mm in height. You can do push-pull configuration of any liquid AIO which is 360, as the motherboard is sunken in. So your VRM, right, will never go exceeding this section over here. I'm talking about this section. So well thought of, well executed. I like this a lot. And besides this, right, your PSU is not mounted at the bottom at all. It's mounted over here. And this will save up lots of space. That's why when I mentioned that this case is full ATX, right, full tower, but in fact it's a very small case, small footprint. Now as for the rear, right, you might notice that, how come I can't see the fan frame and such, as in like the side? Because these fans are not mounted at the front. Instead, it's mounted over here. And this is removable, which I'll show you later. So it is everything concealed. Now, one of the best part, I would say that another innovative design, whereby as you can see this cutout, these are meant for a purpose. If you were to remove this PCIe screws, right, it will be hard to angle it this way, see? So what they have done, right, they have done a cutout over here. So you can pass through your long screwdriver through here and to unscrew. Fantastic design. This case only allows 120mm fans, be the top, the bottom, and the rear. And the placement are as follows. At the top and at the bottom, you're able to cater 3 times 120mm fans. And as for the rear, 2 120mm fans. For radiator placement, as in like liquid AIO, at the top only, you'll be able to place 240, 360, or even 120. Do not place any 280 liquid AIO. It will not fit, as the width of this, right, is only 120. So please do not place 280. As 280, right, the width will be 140. As mentioned to you, this case does not cater 140mm fan. So for 280, it's a no-go. As for the HS01, you have additional space for you to plug the fans, which is at the front, where there's a front mesh. You will be able to cater 3 120mm fans or 2 140. That's right, there are 140mm slot over here. This is the only model that can do 140 at the front. The rest are the same, just like what I mentioned to you on the HS02. Now, something to note, there are 2 cutouts over here. So when you're mounting a fan, right, make sure you mount it outside and not inside. Because if you mount inside, right, the fan frame, or should I say the side frame over here, will hit this and you can't place it properly. So make sure you make it mount in front, and this is movable towards the right. So what you need to do, right, to move it to the right, there are 2 screws over here. I've taken one out. So remove the other screw. And you can pull the tray up, move it to the second slot. Probably you can see here, there are 2 notch alignment over here. So when you do this, right, see, you can tuck the cables further into the cutout. Then this is the arrangement. This is to center the fan so that when you cover it, right, with the ARGB, right, it will be nicer as compared to the fan over here at the side. But do take note that if you are doing this, right, you are only passing 3/4 of the airflow to the inside of the case, the first chamber. Else 1/4, right, will be to the second chamber. So take note on this. And when you're mounting this fans, right, make sure you remove the whole tray. Okay, pop the fans over here, screw it at the back. And I've tried mounting radiator, you can't. Any liquid AIO or any custom water loop radiator, right, you can't mount on this case itself, because due to the fact that if you place it in front, right, there is a 25mm gap. So if your radiator is more than 25mm gap, right, you can't mount at all. And as mentioned to you, the inside, right, if you do mount a 360 or 240 or even a 120, right, you can't, because you'll be hitting the frame inside. So take note on that. No liquid AIO or radiator at the front, only fans. And if you are using custom water looping radiator, right, do take note on the measurements at the bottom. If you are thinking of mounting a custom radiator at the bottom, right, the length of this, okay, from here to here is at 370. So anything exceed it, you can't. But for 240 and 120 custom radiator, yes, you can place. Okay, and also to take note, for liquid AIO, never place it at the bottom. Now, another neat feature about this case is where you have this GPU support bracket. Now, this is taken from the accessory, so it's part of the add-ons. Now, you can adjust the level by unscrewing the thumb screw. See, you can adjust it and to tighten it. Now, if the lever is too low, you can totally remove off the thumb screw, and as you can see, there are holes over here, so you can push up the lever. Well done. Now, another function which I like about this case is that how they did the cutout on the bottom fans and the top fans. See, a true hole. Well done. Now at the bottom, where the gap from the feet bottom to here, right, though is 20mm, if I were to flip it, right, in fact the fan is seated way above, so this clearance, right, is more than 30mm. So it leaves plenty of room for the bottom fans to pull all the cool air into the case. Same goes to the top, where it exhausts the hot air. This is a true hole too. Another function which I mentioned, that this PCIe slot over here you can flip. Now this is for horizontal GPU connection. If you choose to do it vertically, you will need to remove some screws, which I'll show you. First of all, to remove this catch bracket on the PCIe, there are two screws, one at the bottom, one at the top. Now while you're doing this, right, kindly do not lose the screws. So I'm doing this in case it drops. Okay, remove this first. There are two screws. Same goes to here, where you have one screw over here and the other one at the top. So you can just remove this. Same goes to the top. Okay, see, you can remove the whole PCIe bracket. Once you have done this, right, just flip and align at the bottom, slot it in, tighten it with the screws on both ends. Okay, let me just tighten one side so that you can have a look. See, it's pretty straightforward. Then from here, right, you can remove the bracket and to place your GPU vertically. And of course, the riser cable, right, is optional. You have to purchase that. Now, one thing I noticed, that if this is horizontal mounted, right, there are holes over here for you to unscrew the PCIe brackets. I mean the screws over here. But at the top, right, this is blocking. So if you want to do a vertical mount, right, you will need to remove this case first. And how it's being done, let me just show you. At the top, there are two screws over here. Just unscrew them. Okay. And once you unscrew this, right, you will be able to remove the whole rear fan cage. Alright, 2 screws over here. Now, do take note. As mentioned to you, the rear fans are hidden, right? Reason being, right, is because of this cage. See? You can remove the whole thing. So you mount your fan over here. Then you port it back and to screw at the top. So as mentioned to you, right, for vertical mount GPU, right, it will be difficult if you have this cage down here. So remove this where you can access to the screws, and you can remove the screws off from the PCIe bracket. This is the rear where you expose the cable management area. Now, first thing to do, remove all these 2 covers. As you can see, why the cables are not lingering around as I've tucked them away. But let me show you later how neat this is. Now, there's one front, or should I say side panel, that covers all the cable management. So you just need to remove the top screw over here. Now it's pretty tiny, do not lose it, alright? Then you can just pull it out. And this is catch in place with this stud to this. So when you align it back at the bottom, right, there are 2 slots where it slots to this. You can just press it back. And some of you might say that, oh, since it's already there, I don't have to screw this. Now, if the case were to vibrate, right, this will vibrate along. So make sure you screw it tight so that this cover will not vibrate. Once you remove this, right, you will expose this area where you place your PSU, and this is the PSU AC extension, whereby you plug your AC at the back to carry the current to your PSU. And yes, you will need to turn on your PSU inside rather than exterior. Now, this cover is nicely done, see, with the Montech logo, the ventilator areas, and the best value. And over at this section, right, this is where you house 2 2.5 inch SSD or 1 3.5 inch SSD. In fact, you can do, sorry, it's this way. You can do 1 3.5 inch hard disk and 1 2.5 inch SSD, or you can do 2 2.5 inch SSD. Next will be this. This cover is not metal as compared to the other. The other cover, right, as I mentioned, that is metal. Again, remove all the screw. Kindly do not lose this screw. Then you can take off the plastic cover, and you will expose the hub and ARGB controller. Now, this is only provided if you purchase the Pro variant. If you take HS01 and HS02 without the Pro, right, you won't come with this controller or the hub. Then right at the bottom, see, it's very clean. Now, how to cable management all this messy cables? Plenty of tie down points, see, inclusive the top and also at the bottom. Now, by the way, this cable, right, is meant for the case ARGB strip at the bottom, which I'll show you later. Now, besides this, there are also tie down points at the side. Okay, probably you can see it. See the gaps, tons of it. Now, as mentioned to you, in this tray you can house storage as in like 2.5 inch or 3.5 inch. Over here is the same, but you will need to remove off this. This is the caddy for your hard disk or your SSD. As you can see over here, right, labeling 1, this is meant for you to plug a 3.5 inch hard disk. As for 2, you can place 2 2.5 inch SSD as written over here. So total storage, if you to count this, right, just SSD itself, you'll be able to mount 4. If you want to mount 3.5 inch hard disk only, you can mount 2. Or you have a mix, as in probably you can mount 1 3.5 inch hard disk over here, then 2.5 SSD over here, which is 2, or you can place 1 3.5 inch over here, 3 2.5 inch SSD. You can do that. As measured, right, the max ATX power supply that you can house from here all the way to here, you can't go any further, right, because this is tapered down. From here to the top is at 200. Do not go beyond 220. If you go 220, right, your power supply will not be able to fit. And due to the fact that of shorter distance, since the power supply is here, right, the cables are pretty short. Same goes to when you route to the top, you can make use of SFX. But if you want to make use of SFX, you need to change this bracket, as in like the orientation. From the top, there are 4 screws. You can unscrew them. Okay, let me just unscrew. If you want to cater for a SFX, you will need to rotate the bracket. Okay. So when you mount it this way, right, this is for full ATX. You will need to change this way. Okay, where you have the smaller bracket over here, facing towards the top, and mount this to the holes over here. And this will allow you to mount a SFX power supply. And for ATX, right, when I took this out originally, which is actually mounted this, right, make sure you route the cable down first before you plant it, or should I say mount it. Because you can see, right, this thing here, or probably you can actually do this. Yeah, just make sure you go through here and not going through the top. If you go through the top, right, you can't cover the top tray. These are the front I/O, where you are provided 2 USB Type A port, a Type C port, microphone jack, power button, a headphone jack, and a reset switch. In order for this to work, you will need to plug all these cables to your motherboard. For your USB Type A port to function, plug this to your motherboard, followed by the Type C, which you will need to plug this again to your motherboard. Then for your headphone and your microphone and headphone jack, plug this with say HD audio to your motherboard. For the power button, which is this, then for the reset is this one, and for the LED lighting over here, you need to plug this power LED. To further explain this, which is the fan and ARGB hub, which are taken off from the case top. Now this is how it looks like. First thing you will need to do is to plug the power source, which is making use of a SATA connector. Make sure you plug this to your PSU SATA connector so that you will supply power to this whole control unit. And here, right, you'll be able to plug the 3-pin 5V ARGB on this port. There are total of 6. Then for your fan PWM, right, you can connect to the back, which is here. These are all the 4-pin PWM fan connectors, with the white one as the master. Now what do I mean by this? Whatever fans that you plug here, right, with all the PWM connectors over here, this is the master control. Meaning to say, whatever fan curve that you've done that is plugged to here, right, the rest will follow. And this draw the signal or the command from this. the 4-pin PWM fan connector, which is plugged to your motherboard fan header. So that's why I'm saying that whatever you plug this to your motherboard, that header will control the fan curve, which will pass through here and to instruct the rest of the fans. So take note on this. Else for this, oops, the 3-pin 5V ARGB, you can connect this to your motherboard if you choose to use your motherboard to control the ARGB effect, which is over here. Okay, as in like your ARGB devices, right, which is connected over here. If you want to, right, you can make use of the controller only. You don't have to plug this to your motherboard, but you might want to make use of the reset switch, okay, which is this 2-pin connector over here. Plug it to this 2-pin. Okay, I'm just turn around, which is this. Okay, so when you plug it here, right, you'll be able to make use of the reset switch to toggle the ARGB effect. So this will no longer function as a reset switch because it's plugged to here. Unless you plug this to your motherboard, then this will function as reset switch. These are the accessories in the package where you are provided with the instruction manual, be it the HS02 or the HS01. And all this is packed in this bag. And especially on all the screws, right, is in this small bag where you're provided with 2 additional clips. This is meant for your side panel, just in case that the clips on your case is damaged. You can make use of this to replace it. Tons of short screws, which is meant for your motherboard standoff and also for your 2.5-inch SSD, followed by the PSU screws. And these are the motherboard standoff, total of 4, and the mounting board, or should I say 2. Miscellaneous short screw, which is meant for if you were to lose out the cover, let's say the skirt tray screws and such, right, you can make use of this. There are long screws for your fans. Then this is the supporting GPU bracket, 5 Velcro stripe, and 10 zip ties. And these are mainly for cable management. Alright, I pieced up almost everything. In fact, it's whole unit. And this is the result. It took me less than an hour to fit up everything, inclusive the PSU, cable management, and etc. Now, I noticed my mistake. This skirt, which is supposed to cover at the bottom, if you are mounting a full ATX, you can't use this unless you are using a MATX, which has a gap. Then you can use this to cover. So that was my mistake. Now, looking at the stand, this is a 4090 cut that has a length of 348, I should say 350 millimeter. You can go all the way to 400. And as for the height, this is 150. And you might wonder, can I plug the 12V high power cable? Not an issue. If you look closely, right, from here to the case, this is of 30 millimeter gap. So we have plenty of space to plug in. And even if you to place a taller graphic card, which is the Aorus Master, around 160, you will still be able to plug in your 12V high power. There will still be around 20 millimeter gap. So you can fold nicely, not a problem. Now for liquid AIO, right, this is just a standard 55 millimeter thick where you have the radiator and the fans. You can go push-pull configuration, not an issue. Why? Take a look. Your motherboard is sunken in. Okay, take this as a baseline. See, as I swipe across. Okay, it does not hit the side VRM, nor the real VRM. Plenty of space for you to place a push-pull configuration on the liquid AIO. And speaking about the leverage, right? Fantastic. The GPU support bracket does support this very well, and it's very heavy, and there are plenty of area. One thing I like, which they have sunken the bottom fans, right? Though it's sunken in, but you still have more room, as I shown you below. There are tons of room for it to draw air. And this locking mechanism itself, right? Fantastic. It is very sturdy. Once you place your graphic card in, right, and you lock it in, right, it will be in place. Nicely done. Now, I noticed something regarding about the pass-through or the 24-pin cables, which I will show you later. And I do like the top where it just passed through out through here instead of from here. So this will give more space for it to smoothly plug your 8-pin EPS. Well done. Now, as mentioned to you, the 24-pin connectors, okay. Alright, before I show you that, right, take a look at the bottom. See, all tucked nicely. And of course I took out the filter. Now, this is rather heavy because everything is in. Now I'm just going to swivel to the back. Not a problem. You can put back the panel. Very neat, right? Well, let me take out the case, the cover. Now, the PSU is just nice. As in, like, if you're having a full ATX, right, make sure the height is not taller than 86. In fact, most ATX case, ATX power supply, right, they have a height of 86mm. So this will flush exactly. Okay, let's grab here. See? And all your cables is being covered. Okay, I just want to show you I can do a proper cable management just like here. But I just want to deliberately tell you that if you guys are lazy, right, you can just put it in and just close this, right. That's it. Very neat. Now, speaking about the 24-pin connector, which I mentioned, this one, if I am to put a longer ATX PSU, this, by the way, this is 160. If I'm going to put 200, right, the cutout over here, as you can see, it's going to be very small, and you might have difficulties to route your 24-pin connector through here, through this cutout, because imagine that the PSU, right, is going lower. Okay, this is 160. If it goes 200, right, you don't even have space to route this 24-pin cable. Then you have to use the bottom cutout, and for the bottom cutout, right, you will encounter problem too, whereby this graphic card, if you sort it here, right, the spacing at the bottom will be very narrow. So as spec stated, right, you can place up to 200mm, but I wouldn't advise to do so. Keep it as 160. And also another factor that I noticed, that see all these modular cables on here, if it's 200 over here, right, those that are located right in, right, you might not even able to plug your modular cables. So this is something that you need to take note. Now just to show you the top over here, see, all these are tightly covered, and you can go as messy as possible. It's like, if you're lazy type, you can use this to just cover up. But when you cover up, right, just be careful on this section over here. Make sure that your cable doesn't go beyond that. If your cable go beyond that, right, you might just cut it. So take note on this. Besides this, if you wanted to use air cooler instead of liquid cooler, you can. but make sure the height doesn't exceed 175 millimeter. Now, this case have another unique function, whereby right now, right, imagine that I've covered all the tempered glass. The tempered glass is on my right. You can invert the case having the tempered glass on your left. And how do you do it? There are only 4 steps needed. Just go to the bottom of your case where you can see the feet. Unscrew all the feet. I've taken all the 4 feet and I mounted 3 at the top. So take a look, this is actually the top. This is where the liquid AIO is. So when I invert, right, this is going to be the bottom instead of the top. So I mounted the 3 feet just to show you one last one. And I'm just going to zoom in. Now to mount this feet, right, it's pretty straightforward. First, remove this. Okay, you don't have to remove the second screw, alright? This one. Remove the outer one, where there is a magnetic disc around the screw. Okay, this will take some time because it's kind of difficult to remove. So see, this is being removed. Then once this is done, right, take out the screws. Okay, holding on to the magnetic disc. Oh, by the way, these screws, right, do not lose it, alright? Put it one side. Then on the feet itself, where you have these 2 studs and 2 screws, right, make use of the outer screw, not the inner screw. So having the countersunk placed towards the feet. See, this is magnetic. Okay, and why am I doing this, right? Because based on the fact that if you were to do it the other way around, as in like to place this, right, as you screw, right, this might just, you know, fall into other place. For example, this, see, quite easy, it will be out. So I rather do it here, where you have the countersunk facing the screw, where you have the flat surface over here. Then from there, right, place your screws in. Make sure you can feel that the screw you can turn. Then align this. Okay, it's quite simple. Just need to eyeball it. Okay, take a bit of practice. So once it's in, right, you can slowly screw in. Okay, this is in. See? And when you screw in, right, don't over tighten. Once you feel, gently just go in. Once you feel that it stops, right, don't go any further. Leave it. Then once this is done, right, you can now invert the whole case. Okay, let me just tilt this up and to zoom out. See, the case right now is inverted. Your glass panel, right, will be on the left instead on the right. Now, something I did notice about this arrangement itself, if you are placing a very heavy cut, right, I wouldn't advise you to invert based on the fact there are no support to the graphic card. As you can see, the support is above. So there's nothing holding it. It might just sag. Though it's quite sturdy on the... I think it should be alright. I mean, this is quite sturdy. But just for precaution, I wouldn't place a very heavy graphic card, right, inverted way. And also another factor that if you have thick graphic card like this, right, you might have an issue placing your liquid AIO at the top. And something which I don't really understand is that if you were to place the radiator at the top, let's say you are able to, you know that your air, right, is exhausting out. Your GPU is drawing air this way. So imagine that this is exhaust and it's drawing air this way. Isn't it a conflict? Unless you change your liquid AIO to have intake. But it doesn't really make sense too. Whereby, if intake, right, cool air from the outside is drawn through your radiator and it's bringing warm air, and you're going to go through your graphic card. Isn't that going to hurt the performance on the graphic card? So this is actually my thought. Or let's say you want to put air cooler. Yeah, you can. Probably you have to invert your fans, right, to have cool air intake. But the problem is that if you pull the cool air in, right, as we know that hot air rises up. So what happened to the hot air over here? It's like it dissipates. It doesn't push down, you just go up. Then you'll be fighting circulating. That might hurt the GPU performance and such. And you might argue that, oh, probably that I will put it as exhaust, so that it is exhaust. Practically, it will just pull some of the warm air out, but I don't think that is a significant pull from here. And even if you do it at the bottom, pulling at the bottom, right, it's even worse because it doesn't make sense that, oh, hot air go up. So I'm not too sure how the arrangement is like. Unless, okay, let me think. Unless you don't put, my issue is actually on the GPU itself, drawing air this way, and your fans is like of the opposite direction. This will definitely hurt the GPU fans. Anyway, for my take, this is one of the choice that you can do, but it's just that for me, right, I will not do inverted. It sounds kind of like weird. And furthermore, this is a heavy graphic card. Temporary is alright, but long time usage, right? First, the fan having different direction, right, might hurt, and having circulation of warm air, right, that will even worsen the GPU condition. And yeah, well, that's the choice you can choose. So sorry about this, Montech. I got to speak the truth. This is why I feel inverted is nice where you have it on the left, but it doesn't make sense on the GPU itself, unless this is mounted, able to mount this way, then that will be a better solution. Alright, coming to vertical mount the GPU itself, as you can see, right, earlier on you can't really see, so you have to unscrew this 4 screws over here. Then from this you just swap the location, then you screw on. Then once this is done, right, you can port your graphic card. As you can see right now, my graphic card is towards near the side tempered glass. So you can choose a choice of moving in to all this slot. This is a brilliant idea. Then as you can see, the graphic card is vertically mounted. And as you can see the gap, right, as mentioned to you, this is the most outer, nearing the tempered glass, but see, there's still gap. Now, the only thing that I worry is that if this graphic card is heavy, right, you might want to find some support to support the front. As you can see, right, see, it moves about. So there's something, probably you have to do something about it, as in like to find a support to grab hold of the front end of the graphic card. So imagine that if this graphic card is heavy, right, then that will cause a lot of damage on the PCIe bracket, and something that Montech should improve on, because this support bracket, right, can't do anything to support this. Probably would to stick out and to hold on it. That would be great. Just to show you the ARGB effects, which is being controlled by the controller, which I showed you earlier, only if you purchase a HS01 or HS02 Pro. Okay, only the Pro version has the controller and the pre-installed ARGB fans. So as you can see, right, my liquid AIO, which is the Montech Hyperflow, the pump and the radiator fans, plus the case fans, all are being controlled by the controller. And I've deliberately plugged the reset switch to the controller. So as you can see right now, right, it's cycling. I can press for the effect. See? So there are a total of 29 colors of effect you can do. There are some stationary, some breathing and such. Now in the event if you want to control by the motherboard, right, you just need to press and hold on to the reset switch for 3 seconds. Once it blink, right, see, this is motherboard mode. Now I don't have the utility to control it, but this is motherboard mode. So long you connect the controller, ARGB controller to the, 3-pin ARGB connector, right, to your motherboard, you can make use of your motherboard ARGB utility to control the effects. Now, if you want to turn off, okay, probably I would say that before turning off, right, if you want to go back to the controller, right, just press. See, you'll be back to the controller, then you can cycle. Now, in the event you want to turn off the ARGB effect, just press and hold on it. Okay, wait for 2 blinks. This is 1 blink. This is 2 blink. Let go. And this is off. So make sure you blink 2 times before you let go. If not, it's not going to turn off. My take about the HS01 and the HS02, which you see right now, to be honest with you, I have been eyeing with the HS01 since last year when it's in silver. I hope that Montech can actually preserve a silver case out of the HS01. That is very elegant. Now, it doesn't mean that this black and white is not elegant. They are also very elegant. Now, based on the fact that both are dual chamber case, but the thing is, it's so compact. It doesn't take up a lot of space. And for those of you who crave for both tempered glass, right, take a look. It's so gorgeous. And best part that there are ARGB strip at the bottom of the case. And the construction is so solid throughout all the material that I've gone through, right, be it the rear, the panel, and the covers and such, right, they are very sturdy. It's out of good quality. And I don't have to worry about whether to ask the question, can I do a push-pull configuration on the liquid AIO? Because your whole motherboard is sunken in. There are more than enough space for you to cater. Even if you want 100 millimeter thick, not a problem. You can exit over the motherboard section, which is good. And also the execution on having very elegant hidden fans at the rear, which I like. It doesn't expose all the fan frame and such. So even if you were to purchase ugly fans, right, that has ARGB, right, I mean the frame is very ugly, right, you have this covered. And at the bottom, most likely you might get some reverse fans or what to replace if you're not getting a Pro. You just, sits in nicely, blends in very well. And also the compartments, right, as I show you how it's been hidden and how it's been concealed and how it's been tucked in with all the cutouts. I love the 8-pin EPS cutout. Instead of sorting out, it's actually sorting downwards, so that will hide the cables. Same goes to the 24-pin cables and the rest of the cables, inclusive of the, you see, the 8-pin on the GPU. It's all nicely planned. And the routing area is fantastic. The cable management is so fantastic that, I don't even need, okay, at the back I show you. If you are lazy not to do cable management, right, you can just tuck in to the area. Make sure you look carefully at the certain corners, right, that don't cut the cables. Then you just cover it with the whole shroud. The whole cover at the top section and at the side. It's all covered. Very neat. And best part, the ARGB is very vibrant. See, there are ARGB strip on the case itself. And for my advice to you, right, if you want to purchase either HS01 or HS02, I would prefer you to purchase the Pro version. It's just a bit more. I believe it's about $20 more. And you can get a full set of fans, 3 viewers at the bottom, 2 at the back, plus a ARGB controller. And for HS02, right, all is needed is just a liquid AIO that has ARGB fans on it. And that will complete the cycle. You don't even have to think to purchase additional fans and such. And all these fans, right, are operating very silent. Even if you have to ramp it up, right, it's just a silent hum. And I have tested the original, which is the GF120. Those are quiet. This V2 is even better. And as for HS01, right, one thing you will need to buy additional even if you buy the Pro, because if you purchase that, right, you'll be still missing 3 fans at the front where it has the front mesh. So that is something that you want to consider. But be it the HS01 or the HS02, right, I strongly advise you guys, if you want to purchase this case, get hold of the Pro, where all this comes in with it. Then you don't have to spend additional, money on fans and controllers and such. And I always like ARGB controllers to be used on the reset switch itself. I don't have to figure with, all those nonsense background application and such which hot to your system. Not only that, sometimes it might just give you glitches, can't light up and such. This is simple plan. Now, not only this, the holding of the GPU is fantastic. You can rotate it either horizontally or vertically. The only thing you need to purchase is the riser cable. But the thing, as I mentioned, right, if you want to place it vertically, right, kindly note that your GPU, right, will shake. You will need to use something to sustain it, as in like to hold it so that it will not shake. And probably Montech will have to come up with an idea, an add-on, maybe at a later stage, to secure the front of the GPU if vertically mounted. And also another bonus, you can invert the whole case, having the tempered glass instead of the right, you can have it on the left. But I still got some doubts on having on the left, as I mentioned to you. First is the GPU the air is drawing this way, and the exhaustion is towards downward if you were to invert it. So that is my only issues that I have. Other than that, I have nothing much to talk about this case. Nothing bad to talk about this case. To me, best value, quality is good, material is not cheap, okay, all very sturdy, and as mentioned, right, it's concealed very nicely, very elegant. The whole piece is very functional. But something to take note, for the PSU, right, advise you guys do not exceed 160mm. Have it at 160mm so that you can have space to route your 24-pin cables and to do your cable management. With this, I'd like to thank Montech to have provided this case for me to share with everyone. And for those of you actually new to my channel, if you like my content, do remember to subscribe. Remember to click on the like button and to click on the notification bell button. Till then, take care, goodbye, see ya.